Right, here we go. Here is our Chapter 1 Retake Review / Reteach session. So for questions 1 and 2, it's asking about finding absolute value. I'm going to do a quick reteach, and then you'll have the opportunity to retake. Simply all I need you to do is watch this and take down the notes as you need. So for the first two, I'm looking at absolute value. Remember that absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So how far away is -6 from 0? That's what these vertical bars mean. Okay, well, all I have to do is kind of count that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots away. Absolute values are always positive. Again, with negatives, the only time it's negative is that the negative is on the outside. That means take the opposite of the absolute value. So like here, I know that 3/4, this distance has to be 3/4 away from 0. But since I have a negative on the outside, I'm going to take the opposite of 3/4. So this would be -3/4. All right. For finding the sum, I've got two negative numbers being added together. In this case, I'm going to draw a picture out. This is one strategy we have. You don't have to use this. But what I see here is that I have all negatives and no positives, meaning on a number line, -9 is going this way and -5 is going that way. So when I add them together, I'm just going to keep getting more negative. How many total negatives do I have? I have -14. That's how we would do that. Right? For finding the difference now, instead of having a plus sign in the middle, now I've got subtraction. Whenever I have subtraction signs in the middle, we have this opportunity to do something called karate math, right? This is where I look and I see, am I subtracting negative or am I subtracting positive? And we can flip it and add the opposite. So what do I mean by add the opposite? Well, we're going to change our subtraction sign to addition, and then we're going to take the opposite of the second number. Well, the opposite of -12 would be +12, or in karate math would result in a chop. So when I have 13 plus 12, now I can just add them straight up. In this case, right, I'm just adding those two together, and I get 25. Now let's say this had been 13 minus +12. Well, when I did that, I would end up with 13 plus -12, and then I would have opposition. So make sure you check to see, are my signs the same? And if they are, right, they're both working together. If they're not, then they're working against each other. All right, now we've got fractions here. A couple of things with fractions. First of all, check. I'm adding here, so I don't have to do any karate math. But second, in order to add fractions, I need to make sure my common denominators, I have them. Okay, in this case I don't. My strategy would be, can I change one of them to get to the other? And I can by multiplying the 4 by 2. 4 times 2 is 8. However, this also means I then have to multiply the top by 2 since I'm changing it, keeping my fraction equivalent. This results in -9/8 plus -22/8. Now I have common denominators, which is good, and I can look up top. I've got -9, which is going left, -22, which is also going left. These two are working together. -9 plus -22 ends up being -31/8. This is an acceptable answer. Otherwise, if you wanted to simplify that, you could say that this is -3 7/8. Right, for the next one, now I'm adding decimals together, right? Again, I'm adding, so I don't have to do karate math, so that's my first check. I have a positive and I have a negative. When I have opposite signs, this means that this one is trying to pull it to the right, this one is trying to pull it to the left, and I have this battle going on. So when I have that, I'm always going to put the bigger value on top, which in this case is 8.4, and then I'm actually going to subtract the second number. Now there's a missing spot here. We need a placeholder 0 to go in there, and then from there I can go ahead and subtract just as normal. 0 minus 3, I can't do that, so I'm going to need to change this around. 10 minus 3 becomes 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. 8 minus 1 is 7. Last step, I said that 8.4 was the greater value, meaning I need to take its sign with my answer. So this is going to stay a positive 7.17. Right? Now I look at here, I'm subtracting. I have two fractions and I'm subtracting them, meaning I have to think about doing this karate math thing. Well, karate math says keep the first number, change the subtraction to addition, and then change the second number to its opposite. My number is negative right now. The opposite of this would be positive 11 over 9. So when I've got this, my equation is going to change to look something like this. Now what I have is I have a negative number pulling left, positive number pulling right, and we're in opposition again. When I go to subtract, right, always my bigger value first, which was 11 over 9, minus 2 over 9, right, that subtracted, 11 minus 2 is 9 over 9, and this is also 1. Last thing to do is check. I said that 11 was my bigger value. It is positive, so my answers should both be positive. All right, lastly here for the first part would be subtracting decimals. Okay, in this case I've got a subtraction sign, so I'm going to go ahead and add the opposite. I've got 8.82. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to add. And instead of taking the negative version here, I'm going to take the positive, because that would be the opposite. Now for my signs, I have two positive numbers pulling right, meaning we are all good to go and just add these up. 8.82, 4.5. Make sure you're lining up those decimals. I have a missing spot here, so I'm going to put in a placeholder 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 5 is 13. 8, 4, and 1 is also 13. Since they're both positive, my answer has to stay positive, and we get 13.32. Right, for finding the distance, now we're kind of switching it up. I'm looking to see how far apart are these two numbers. Well, my first step I want to do is I like using a number line just to put a visual on it. This number is negative, meaning it's to the left of 0, and it's pretty far in terms of this other number. So I'm going to put negative 3 and 2/5 over here. For the second one, I have a positive 1 4/5, which I know is to the right of 0, but it's not as far away as negative 3 and 2/5 was. So I've got 1 4/5 there. And so what I need to do is I need to try and figure out how far apart are those two numbers. Well, some things I do know is that this distance, to get from negative 3 and 2/5 back to 0, I would have to add 3 and 2/5. And then from there, I would have to add another 1 4/5. So it's kind of like getting back to 0 and then going a little bit more. So when I look at this, what's going to happen is I'm actually going to add these two numbers together, because that's the total distance it will take to go from the negative 3 and 2/5 to the positive 1 4/5. First things I got to do is convert these. So this would be 5 times 3 plus 2, which is 17 over 5. 5 plus 1, or 5 times 1 plus 4 is 9 over 5. When I add these two together, I get a 5 as my denominator. 17 plus 9 is 26, which this can simplify into 5 and 1/5. And again, distance is always positive, so I don't have to worry about is this positive or negative. Either one of those works. Right, for the last example here, we have kind of the opposite of the last one. In this case, right, both of my numbers are negative, so they're actually both going to be on the same side of 0. Okay, negative 6.8 is clearly further negative, so it's going to be more to the left. And negative 2.4 is a lot closer to 0, but still in the negatives. And now this time I've got a little bit of a different situation. Instead of going all the way, I just need to figure out this distance right here. Well, what are some things I know? I know from 6.8 back to 0, I would have to add 6.8. But instead of last time where we kept going past 0, I would have to kind of go backwards. I actually have to go backwards 2.4. So when I go backwards 2.4, I have like a plus and a minus situation going on, so these two don't like each other, which makes sense because this is a lot shorter distance than the full 6.8. So I'm going to subtract these two, 6.8 and 2.4, and I get 4.4, which is my answer because all my distances are positive.